Good Friday morning, everyone. How worried should the Sixers be about a potential playoff matchup with the Miami Heat? The answer is very, after what we saw last night. Will the AFC North come down to Lamar versus Baker? And will Tom Brady strut and stroll and waltz into New England and just beat up on his old team, the Patriots? Because Tom's dad thinks so. And with that, we say good morning. Welcome to First Things First. Jenna, Nick, Brandon. We got Kevin. Hey, Kevin Wilds, I'm just looking here. The tickets for that game, Bucs Pats, are, off the charts. How many college tuitions did it cost you to get you and your buddies tickets for the game?
Just two.
Oh.
Just two. I only have two kids. I have not dug into anyone else's college tuition yet, though I may have to.
College tuition. That's a great answer. That is great. All right, we are going to get to the most expensive game on next year's schedule, but we got to start with the Lakers this morning. Their season is winding down quickly. Final push for them to maybe build a little momentum, try to put it all together. They got the Pacers on Saturday. They got the Pelicans on Sunday. They do still have a chance to avoid the dreaded play-in tournament, but LeBron James, who has yet to return to the lineup, has his sights set far beyond that. Here's LeBron from Wednesday's banner ceremony.
We would not send this banner to the rafters without you guys, and I know we're missing a lot of our Laker faithful, but this is absolutely for you guys. We said we would not reveal this banner until we had some of you guys in the seats, so this is you guys' moment. We had our ring night. We wanted you guys there, but we made sure we saved the banner for y'all, so we love you guys, and on the road to back-to-back starts in about a week, so let's get going.
Whoa.
LeBron James putting it out there. Nick, you've been saying all week long you're not worried at all about the play-in game. You might be the only one. Do you still feel the same way?
Oh, not only do I feel the same way, now there are a lot of different machinations that could happen over the final 72 hours of the season, seeding-wise. But if the bracket holds mostly to form, meaning that Utah and Phoenix are the 1 and the 2, or the 2 and the 1, and the Clippers stay the 3, not only am I not worried about the play-in game, I would prefer the play-in game. Now, I know I'm a man on an island on that, but Jenna,
yes,
you called it the dreaded play-in game. The first play-in game would come against either Memphis or Golden State. They play each other on Sunday. The winner of that game will be the 8 seed. The Lakers this year are 5-1 against Memphis and Golden State. 4 of those victories, utter blowouts. The one loss was a 2-point loss where the Lakers fell asleep in the fourth quarter and blew a 14-point lead late. So I would prefer a path to the Western Conference Finals that starts with Utah or Phoenix than one that starts with a Clippers team that, if you've noticed this year, I have held back the slander on compared to last year, because this year they are a far better team than they were last year. I do not understand what I would call faux concern about the idea that the Lakers, if they are in the play-in game, are going to lose consecutive games to either Memphis, Golden State, or San Antonio, 2 of those 3. I don't think anyone actually believes it. So I would prefer the play-in game. Now, the Blazers might screw that up for the Lakers, and they might end up the 6th seed. But right now, that's what I'm rooting for.
Oh, man. So LeBron James, banner night, talking about the road to back-to-back starts next week. Well, it started months ago, LeBron. Yeah. You guys went from the number 1 seed, now you're the number 7 seed. So, Wilds, here's the deal. You got LeBron James with a nagging ankle injury. I don't know if you want more games. We're talking about a play-in tournament. Yep. It's almost like college basketball. You don't want to be in that tournament. You don't want to be playing extra games. You don't want that. And then you got AD. AD got a nagging this, a nagging that. These guys don't need extra games. They don't need extra miles and minutes on their body. They need to get healthy, and I don't know where they're at in that process, and they need to come together and try to get back on track. But right now, adding games to it is not the solution, Wilds.
See, the healthy part is interesting because you don't know how healthy they are. Are we sure that the Lakers know how healthy they are? Because, Nick, we talked about it, that LeBron was supposed to come back and face Julius Randle, and we were ready for a big New York versus LA matchup. And then Woj was like, nah, you know what? He's not going to go. He's going to wait to play against the Rockets. And we're like, all right, great. Oh, it's the Rockets. You get to beat up on the worst team in the league. And then LeBron's like, not quite. I'll do the banner ceremony, and I'll talk about next week that we'll be on the road to back-to-back. We look at how many games they played last year versus this year. And I know last year I'm not worried about their chemistry. It felt like they were just on a straight path to the finals, and they did it. But it's less than half the games and a third of the minutes. So, again, Nick, I'm not worried about their chemistry. I am worried about their health. And like Brandon says, any little extra wear and tear on the road to 16 wins to win that championship, I wouldn't want. So are you worried about their health is a question for the resident Lakers fan and analyst.
Well, listen, I'm not a Lakers fan, first of all. Second of all, I do, of course, there is a level of concern because this will be the first time in LeBron's career he goes into the playoffs dealing with an actual injury. He's only ever had one other injury in his career of a significant nature, and that year they missed the playoffs his first year in LA. So, of course, that's there. But you guys are saying extra wear and tear, so then just don't play on Sunday. That's it. It's not that hard. Just don't play Sunday. If you guys are advocating they play Saturday and Sunday to try to avoid the play-in. I'm saying play Saturday, get everyone back together, play a game Saturday, give everyone the day off Sunday. Who cares if you lose it? And then go kick the Warriors or the Grizzlies' teeth down their throats and get ready for Utah or Phoenix. I just like now I understand why I don't think LeBron is a huge fan of the idea of going to the play-in because if you look at LeBron's playoff history, what's his and his team's worst game? Game 1. His 4 rings he's won, they've lost game 1 of the finals 3 of those 4 times. The only game 1 they won for any of his rings was actually last year. In the playoffs last year, they lost game 1 to Portland. They lost game 1 to Houston. Because LeBron traditionally in a playoff series... Right, and LeBron traditionally in a playoff series uses game 1 as a feel-out game, so he wouldn't be able to do that. I just don't think the Grizzlies or the Warriors are very good, and if you happen to get unlucky and lose to one of them, then you're going to have to lose to either one of them or the Spurs the next day. And again, I keep hearing people say this is concerning. I haven't heard anyone yet say, I think the Lakers will lose back-to-back elimination games and won't make the playoffs. So if they're going to make the playoffs, I don't understand I think it's faux concern. It's like, and so I think it is actually better for them as far as the path goes if they do end up in the play-in.
Okay, they get in the play-in and they handle their business. Now they're in the playoffs, and it's still going to be concerning for this team because of AD. That's the key to all of this. LeBron James probably will be fine. He's a smart guy. He seemed confident hanging up that banner and speaking to the crowd. But AD, like I said, he has a nagging this, a nagging that, and he's not playing well, Nick. So that's something that you guys have to think about as you go into the playoffs. All of this confidence that you have, man, you know, I feel like it's misled.
How is that? I guess I disagree on he's not playing well. I think since the Denver game, he's played excellent. But how is that different? I'm just curious. How is the concerns about nagging this, nagging that with Anthony Davis any different than the concerns for that with Kawhi and the Clippers, the second best team in the conference? How's it any different? The history's not different?
Here's the deal. It's about your record, right? Like, so every team is dealing with something. The Nets are dealing with something. But right now, they're the number 2 seed in the East. And then you look at the West, LeBron and those guys, where did they start off before he went down? Where were they, the 2nd seed or the 3rd seed? And now they're the 7th seed, bro? So that's the problem, is that this team dealing with the same thing every other team is dealing with, because this is an unprecedented year, has been trending in the wrong direction.
All right, well, we'll see what LeBron decides to do if he makes his return this weekend or waits until the play-in or the playoffs. We got to take a turn, talk some football. That guy right there. Will the AFC North come down to him or him? Baker versus Lamar? We'll find out next. First things first. Him or him? Time for a fun news segment. We're calling it Big Deal or No Big Deal. We'll start with Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes has a sparkling 10-0 career record in the month of September. So let's take a look. Chiefs start the season with the Browns, the Ravens, and the Chargers this year. It's not that easy. But Brandon, Patrick Mahomes being undefeated in September this season, big deal or no big deal?
No big deal. Everything has to fall. And then you look at this year, you said it, the Cleveland Browns. That's your team, Nick. You got Baker Mayfield. You like this team. This is going to be the year that it's going to be a tough September for the Kansas City Chiefs. And then you have the Baltimore Ravens, and the biggest question mark there is, can this offense ascend? What are we going to do with the passing game? What are we going to do there? If they can ascend and if they go to the next level, then it could be scary not only for the Chiefs, but for so many other people in the National Football League. And then Justin Herbert, week 3. Week 2 last year, you guys had to go to overtime, and Butker hit a 58-yarder to win it. So this is going to be an interesting September for Patty Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs, and also Nick James Wright. So this is no big deal.
Yeah, it is going to be interesting because it is a big deal because the Chiefs are going to go undefeated in September once again. Like, what are we talking about here? How many times has Mahomes lost to Herbert? Never. How many times has he lost to Lamar? Never. How many times has he lost to Baker? I think maybe once in college. We got to look it up. Might have been an Oklahoma-Texas Tech game, but since then, never. Not as a pro. And it's not just the 10-0. It's the 32 touchdowns, 0 interceptions that really jump off the page at you. I am delighted the schedule makers gave the Chiefs the toughest part of their schedule right in the beginning of it because it guarantees the Chiefs get the tiebreaker against the Browns, the tiebreaker against the Ravens, start in the division 1-0. So I love it. It's a big deal, much like Andy Reid off a bye in the regular season. Some of these numbers, the sample size is getting greater and greater and greater to where you have to believe it. So Wilds, I say this is absolutely a big deal. And if I'm the Browns or the Ravens particularly, I'm none too pleased with the schedule makers putting us week 1 and 2 against Kansas City.
See, I would like playing Kansas City because I want to be tested right off the bat. And here's what you guys need to do. If you're playing the Kansas City Chiefs, do what Todd Bowles did. You got to attack and get to Patrick Mahomes because nobody did it last year. Last year, Browns, 1 sack, Patrick Mahomes. Ravens, 0 Chargers, just 1 sack. Week 17, Mahomes didn't play. So guys, get to the quarterback. Clowney, hello, wake up, put on the Browns uniform, try to get to Patrick Mahomes. You guys can win the game.
Wilds with the big deal. All right, let's head to the AFC North. So the aforementioned Cleveland Browns set to play the Ravens twice in a matter of 3 weeks with their bye week in between. Meanwhile, Ravens have a meeting with the Steelers sandwiched in between the games against the Browns. I like sandwiches. Brandon, the Browns playing the Ravens twice with the bye in between. Big deal or no big deal?
Oh, this is a huge deal, Jenna. I mean, you got to think about what happens during those bye weeks. This is a time where you can self-reflect. This is a time where you self-scout. So the things that you don't do well, that's what you're working on. You're studying other teams in those areas that do it at a high level. Also, you get extra time to prepare. In the National Football League, we're talking about most games being decided by 2 or 3 points. And now you're giving me a couple of extra days a week to actually get the job done. So this is a big deal when you look at divisional football, because now you're talking about games that really matter and it's going to impact where you're at the end of the year. So this is a huge deal, Nick.
Yeah, I totally agree. I don't think it's that big of a deal that they play twice in 3 weeks. That happens occasionally. The big deal is that between the games, the Browns get a week off and the Ravens play what is always one of, if not the most physically brutalizing games of the NFL season, Ravens-Steelers. And so this is, let me give you a college football analogy. Alabama has been very smart Every year, right before the Iron Bowl, their game against Auburn, they always schedule Citadel or someone similar. That way, they have an essential bye week where they can make sure they're getting healthy and not getting physically beat up before they face their rival. The fact that between the two Browns games, the Ravens have to deal with that Steelers defense is a huge deal. And the fact that the Browns, and not only do they not have to deal with the Steelers defense, they get a week off to, as Brandon said, self-scout and correct or change the things they need to change from the first matchup. I think this is one of the most important scheduling quirks of the schedule release from a couple nights ago. I think it puts the Browns in great position to do what I think they will do, which is win the AFC North and be the 2 seed this season. So I think this is a very big deal, Wilds.
I totally agree with you. Here's the other little secret winner in this. The Packers, because the Ravens' full schedule is Browns, Steelers, Browns. Aaron Rodgers. You think you're going to take a breath after playing Baker twice and Big Ben. Nope, here comes Aaron Rodgers. Or Jordan Love. We're not quite sure, but I assume it's going to be.
There you go.
I assume it's going to be Aaron Rodgers, but maybe Jordan Love.
Well, it's a good assumption. Time for the weird and wonderful from yesterday. One of the top prospects in baseball, Jared Kelenic, making his MLB debut yesterday. His first at-bat spoiled by a pretty awesome catch. But it wasn't quite wonderful enough to make KW's list. What do you got for us?
Fan almost screwed that up.
Close. That was close, though. Solidly close. All right, Nelson Cruz. Look, there's plenty of rally hats. Sometimes, desperate situations, just throw on the full-on rally cooler. He actually did this in Minnesota once, so great job, Nelson Cruz. I hope it catches on. Also, great product placement for Gatorade. Moving on to the wonderful. You know what?
Oh, this is great.
Once you're really in sync with your teammates and you got a little bit of a weird pitching motion, let Vladdy help you out here. I think it's just good for overall team chemistry and just solid move.
I love baseball.
And then finally,
I feel like that's distracting.
it's our favorite play and our favorite rule quirk. If you throw the ball and you touch it with your glove, it ends up being a triple, yet baseball players continue to do it. Either we should change the rule to encourage this sort of stuff, or stop throwing your glove at the ball like a little league.
It's a terrible
Regardless,
throw.
that's the weird and wonderful from the National Pass. Also terrible throw, good point.
I have a complaint to register, if I may, Wilds, for
Let's
Weird
hear it.
and Wonderful. It's been great,
Yeah.
I love it, but we're now on 9 consecutive shows without La Tortuga. America is here for La Tortuga. This segment really got off the ground because of La Tortuga.
That's right.
And we haven't, and
sure that's
our
right.
friend Astudio has not been around lately. We found out he had a brother, and we all of a sudden, it's like he's gone. So can you next week, can we get La Tortuga back into this, please?
It's on me. That's on me.
Yeah, we
That's
need
good
him.
leadership from you. That's on me.
Okay, thank you. No problem.
We get back to some basketball, and then we'll get more La Tortuga. The Sixers getting seared by the Heat last night. Should Philly be worried about a potential playoff matchup
seared.
with Miami? We'll discuss that next. You like that? First things
I
first.
like that, Jenna. That's
Here
good.
with Chris Broussard, and a terrible night, Broussard, for the Philadelphia 76ers. Down in Miami to face a hungry Heat team. Miami, they just out-hustled, they outclassed, they outscored Philly. Held Joel Embiid to just 6 points all night. So Miami gets the win. They hang on to the 5 spot in the East. As for the Sixers, head coach Doc Rivers with a pretty blunt assessment of what went down in Miami. Take a listen.
We take an ass whooping and then we get out, literally.
Fair
right?
enough.
Yeah, I mean, they just beat us every way. They were better prepared. They played harder. They were more into it. You can't get it back, so you just move on.
Okay, so also in this game, this happened. I mentioned it earlier in the show. Heat vets Udonis Haslem making his season debut. How did it go, Jenna? Oh, it wasn't great. 3 minutes, 1 big dust-up with Dwight Howard, and an ejection. So what happened? Here's Haslem with his side of the story.
If this is the last one, I finished it the only way Udonis Haslem could, with an ejection.
Was that a hint?
I said if. If was a fifth, we all be drunk. If. Tim, if.
Is he wearing a Friends hat? Hey, Broussard, should the 76ers be worried about a potential second-round matchup with the Miami Heat?
Yes, indeed, Jenna. And for all of Nick Wright's gloating during the season about, Philly's getting the #1 seed. They get to avoid Milwaukee in the second round. He didn't count on this. All right, meeting the Miami Heat in that second round. I'm not saying Miami will definitely beat Philadelphia, but I am saying that the Sixers would probably be better off facing Milwaukee than facing Miami in the second round. Milwaukee's a bit similar. No, Milwaukee's a bit similar to the Sixers. They're a really good team, but they're a tad bit finesse and they're a tad bit fragile mentally.
That's right.
All right, and that's where the Sixers are too. When they face Miami, they are going to have their hands full, and for two reasons. 2 words I'll give you. Jimmy Butler. Since Jimmy Butler left Philadelphia a couple years ago and the Sixers found out how tough Butler is when he was there, he is 4-1 against Philadelphia, including 4 straight wins. In those 5 games, Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons, and Tobias Harris played in all of them. All right, Jimmy Butler will be going for their throat if they meet in the playoffs. He's going to be the toughest player on the floor in that series. And guess who the second toughest will probably be? Bam Adebayo. They're going to throw a lot of different defensive looks. So Philadelphia won't have a coaching advantage, and they might be at a disadvantage because Spoelstra's a very good coach. You saw last night, they pushed the Sixers around, they punched them in the mouth, and the Sixers really didn't want any. Eric Spoelstra threw different defensive looks at him, little man, little zone. We know that's what they'll do in the playoffs. And Doc Rivers just hasn't been great at adjusting in the playoffs. We know that. He's got he dropped 3-3-1 leads in the playoffs. That's more than any other coach in NBA history. No one else has dropped more than 1. Doc has more Game 7 losses than any coach in NBA history. In his 7 years with the Clippers, he lost 3 times to lower seeds in the playoffs. Again, I'm not predicting necessarily a Miami victory.
Why not?
But it will be a tough series for the Sixers. Well, when it's time to make my pick, I'll make my pick, and you'll know who it is. I'm just saying, Philadelphia will definitely be pulling for the Atlanta Hawks, Nick, in that first round series.
Well, all right, so a few things should be noted. Miami can very easily end up the 6th seed. They could be the 4, they could be the 5, they could be the 6. If they end up the 6th seed, then they're on the other side of the bracket as Philly. I'm not hoping. I'm actually not hoping. I don't have a rooting interest in where the Heat land in the standings. The point I'm making is that they could, in the first round, play Brooklyn or Milwaukee and be on that side of the bracket because the standings are so congested. But I am glad that folks are finally acknowledging how good Jimmy Butler and the Miami Heat are, because, it just felt to me like when the Lakers were dispatching of them in the finals, we were like, it's a fluky year, it's the bubble, Jimmy Butler, they're the 5 seed, and now it's like, oh, no, this is a great team. This is Spoelstra, Butler, Bam, and Tyler Hero coming off the bench. No, of course, people should be worried about the Heat, no matter where they end up in the bracket. Here's the thing, America. Every second round series in the NBA playoffs is hard. Some are harder than others. I do think Milwaukee, I think that if you're Brooklyn, you'd rather be playing the Heat than the Bucs in round 2. But either way, if Miami stays in the 4-5, it would be tough. It would be hard. There aren't going to be bad teams that are alive when the NBA playoffs are down to 8 teams. And I think the point that Jimmy Butler has proven time and again that he is a winning player, that even if some of the numbers that are declaring Nikola Jokic one of the 10 greatest players ever don't have Jimmy as one of the 30 best players in the league, the fact of the matter is he's a winning player. And we saw it in the playoffs last year. We saw it in the playoffs, the year he was on Philly and they almost beat Kawhi and the Raptors. We saw it then. So yes, the Heat are a potential problem no matter where they land in the bracket for any team. I don't think they're a specific problem for Philly, though, more so than they would be for Brooklyn or Milwaukee, Brandon.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, you guys hit it on the head with everything. The number one thing for me is toughness. You know, you look at UD. UD doesn't play all year. He goes in for a few minutes, and he gets ejected because he's in Dwight Howard's face. Dwight Howard didn't want any of that. And Jimmy Butler is willing to go there every single night. That's the mentality that Jimmy Butler has brought to this organization since D. Wade has left. We're talking about in practice. You hear the stories coming out. The very first practice they had, them showing up 4:35 in the morning, getting extra reps and just pushing each other. So that's the number one thing to jump out. And this team is soft. Like, I say it all the time that, you know, Joel Embiid is the most dominant player on the planet right now, but he didn't look dominant last night. And that takes me to my second point, and that's defense. This team is really savvy. They're aggressive. They're well coached. They're smart. Yeah, I'm talking a little defense, Nick, but I'm talking about why these boys they can make it matters to a certain point, but not when we're talking about the Nets. It doesn't matter with the Nets because like James already said.
Brandon.
Yeah. Got it.
But think about this. We got the most dominant player on the court last night, and he didn't look dominant. Why? Because of Bam. Bam was so smart, so savvy, and he didn't send him to the line. That's when Embiid is dominant because he can do whatever on any part of the court, but then he makes it to the line, and they didn't do that last night, Wiles. They didn't send him to the line, and that's why the 76ers should be nervous and not overlook them if they see them in round 2.
Okay, we had two people being picked on in this game. The first one was Dwight Howard. And I know Dwight Howard's 7 feet tall, and Dwight Howard wears Superman cape. Dwight Howard is not the tough guy, and we all know it. So I'm not going to sit here and applaud UD for picking on poor Dwight Howard. That's not his role. He's not the enforcer. It's not who he is. The other person getting picked on is poor Doc Rivers. Holy cow, Chris Broussard, my goodness. What did Doc Rivers do to you? This is your favorite coach from last year's Clippers squad. What? Never mess cross a Broussard scoring. Bitter. He let the Clippers down. Next thing you know, the knives are out. The knives are out. Broussard, do you think that he is at a disadvantage against the Heat? I was just shocked at how much you have abandoned your former, favorite coach of your favorite team, the Los Angeles Clippers, ever since you were a child.
Wild, it's always facts over feelings. All right, and I like Doc. I mean, who doesn't like Doc in the NBA? Everybody loves him, but the facts are the facts. And Eric Spoelstra is a very good coach, and I'm just saying that look, Doc has something to prove. He's been great this season in the regular season. He's been terrific. He's got Embiid on the block a little more. I love what he's done. But let's see what he does in the playoffs because he didn't get it done with the Clippers. There's no doubt about that. And, Nick, I'm going to say this. And I give you credit for acknowledging how tough Miami will be for Philadelphia should they meet. I don't think Miami's a great team. All that gloating about, when the Lakers, they're not a great team. They're a team that gives certain groups matchup problems, and one of those is Philadelphia. If they meet Brooklyn, I don't think it'll be a problem for the Nets. I'm not saying they'll sweep them, but Brooklyn's offense will be too much for them. No. So they're a tough matchup for Philly because Philly has shown to be a little bit mentally fragile in the past.
But you also
they're still relatively young, and they got good matchups for Embiid with Bam.
But you also think they'd be a tough matchup for Milwaukee, right? We just saw them beat you think they'd be a tough matchup for Milwaukee. Right, okay. Yes. Well, then, so here's the thing.
But not
the four best teams in the East. Right, right. So it's not that Miami's not an excellent team. It's that I'm old enough to remember it's over, and it's still over. That Brooklyn's going to run through everybody. I get it. There are no tough matchups for the Nets. I understand they're dominant. They're the defending 3-time champions, and they're going to roll through the playoffs. I get it. I understand. Miami's just a tough matchup for literally everyone else.
Matchups.
Yeah,
Milwaukee and Philly will be decent matchups for Brooklyn. And, of course, the Lakers.
Okay, good. Okay, well, I'm good. I'm glad to hear they'll be decent matchups. Maybe they could take it 5, possibly 6 games. But I do want to say one thing in Philly's defense. Philly essentially locked up the 1 seed a few days ago. And since then, they've been in something of autopilot. Now, Had my buddy Daryl hit me up before the game, I would have said, hey, man, just rest your guys. Don't play them tonight. You've got 2 against Orlando. You only need to win one of those to officially have the 1 seed locked. Don't give Miami added momentum or confidence that, hey, we've got these guys' number. Because going into the game, I believe there was only 1 game all year Joel Embiid didn't score double digits. It was against Miami. Now, there's 2 games all year he doesn't score double digits. They're both against Miami.
Both against Miami.
And so I would have, if you're not going to be fully locked in, and the fact that Embiid was playing out on the perimeter, never got to the foul line, tells me they weren't fully locked in, should have just rested your guys, because you're going to beat Orlando and you're going to lock up the 1 seed. But I do think that Miami right now is playing for a lot. Philly is essentially in the NBA version of a Week 17 rest your guys without resting them because their seed's locked up. I think that played at least a small factor into what we saw last night, Jenna.
Whatever
No,
helps
it's a
you
good
sleep
note.
at night.
Miami definitely has Philly's number when it comes to Embiid. Time for Knicks NBA medals. Nikola Jokic, 31-14 in a win over the T-Wolves last night. Pretty good. Not good enough to make Knicks podium. Nick, which 3 guys did it better?
Sorry, Nikola. You couldn't make it because there were 2 outstanding performances plus this performance that gets the bronze. Give me UD. 18 years in. He says, hey, I haven't played all season. Guess what UD's per 48 is? Hey, nerdy NBA Twitter, UD per 36, actually best player in the league. 48 points per 36 minutes on the season. You know why? Because he got 4 points in 3 minutes last night. 18 years in, 3 rings, 6 finals appearances. What a career by Udonis Haslem. Get him on the medal stand. Silver medal, Dame time. Kevin Wilde said Dame's going to score 40 and relegate the Lakers to the 7th seed. Well, he scored 40, a very questionable foul call at the end of the game. If I am the Terry Stotts, if I get fired at the end of this season, I am calling the league office and saying that referee cost me my job. Dame was great. The Suns escaped with a win after a very questionable foul call late at night. I'm focusing on that because I stayed up to watch it, so I'm letting you know about it. Giannis, 40. Wild said he almost made a mess in his pants. I thought that was a little inappropriate television for 7:30 in the morning, but Wild says got to get in the show. Giannis, 40, 15, and 6. Milwaukee. Don't forget now, you're supposed to be a great defensive team. Few too many games likely where your opponent gets 125, but Giannis takes care of things despite a very questionable tweet that Wilds demanded be in the show. So there are your NBA medals. UD gets a bronze, Dame a silver, and a gold for Giannis. There it is. What's up, Broussard? You look like there's consternation.
I love UD. I love UD as much as you, Nick, but you went to great pains to leave Nikola Jokic off your medal stand. It's all right. He's the future MVP. Deal with it. All right? A few weeks from now, MVP.
UD's got to get on there. UD.
All right. Nikola left off. Who else just missed the cut, Kevin?
Look at Kat here, playing for America's best, worst team. Warriors fans keep watching these games. When they win, they lose. When they lose, they win. Currently the 5th worst team, which means the Warriors would have their pick. But great overall pass from Kat.
It's a great pass.
Very nicely done. We got to get back to some football. Talking about Tom Brady's return to Foxboro. Tom's dad thinks the Bucs will beat the Patriots handily. See if the guys agree. This is first things first.
Nick, Bobby.
Back here, first things first. Thank you, NFL scheduling gods, for granting us Bucs v. Patriots in Week 4. Brady v. Belichick. All the history of their 20 years together. All the drama of what played out last year. Now they're going to meet for the first time since parting ways. Brady tweeting, "It's like when your high school friends meet your college friends." Good one, Tom. While Tom was tweeting, Tom Brady Sr., his dad, was joining Boston Radio yesterday to predict how that Week 4 matchup will play out. Take a listen to this.
I saw the schedule come out last night, and I started salivating when I saw that we play the Patriots in the 4th game of the season, and that we're coming up here to make our our record 4-0 after the fourth game. So it's a pretty fun time. Coming back home to Boston, it's our second home here. And the Patriots are our second favorite team. It's a game where we get to root for against nobody. We get to root for the Patriots, but our most favorite team, of course, is the Buccaneers, and so we expect to beat the Patriots rather handily.
After all that, oh yeah, we'll smoke them. Brandon, you share Brady's dad's confidence that the Bucs will beat the Patriots rather handily?
No, but first, Tom Brady Sr. just peeled back the curtain on this relationship. This relationship is not in a good place, and that's concerning, man. You guys have done so much together. We're talking about winning at a high level for years, 20 years. You guys can't be grown men and sit down and try to figure this out, but this is going to really just put a lot of venom into this game, and it's going to be super entertaining. So the week leading up, it's going to be fun. Game time, game day is going to be fun. Does Tom Brady walk up to Bill Belichick and shake his hand? Does Bill walk up to Tom, shake his hand? Probably not. Thank you for that nugget, Tom Brady Sr. We kind of knew that, but man, time goes by. You got to let things heal up, man, and they haven't done that yet. So here's the deal. You got Bill Belichick on the other side. Bill Belichick is going to be looking at week 10 and on. Week 10 and on, what happened down there in Tampa? They found their identity. They realized that they're not a aired out type of offense. You need to hand the ball off to those two running backs that you have, and you have a great defense, and everybody knows what Todd Bowles does on that side of the ball. But on the offensive side, you guys figured it out. Now you're giving Bill Belichick months to prepare for that. You best believe Bill is sitting in his office right now saying, okay, week 1, we're not going to overlook that. We know we got to do there, but I got to get a jump start on this game right here. He's penciling that in. He knows exactly who Tom Brady is. He knows his strengths. He knows his weaknesses, and he's going to exploit it. So I do not share the sentiment of Tom Brady Sr. wows. And if you have any extra tickets, I would love to be there, because this game is going to be phenomenal. The entire week leading up to the game is going to be phenomenal.
Brandon,
you got
I
something
love
for
you
me?
and respect you. Well, here's the thing. With you talking about, hey, Nick, did you see the new Rolex I got on my Instagram? Or, hey, one time I took a vacation to St. Bart's and there was goats up on the hillside. I would not take you to the lowly section of the only section I could afford, my friend. You should call all your friends in the NFL. You deserve far better seats than the ones I can afford. But if you want to come with me, we can do it. Nicholas, I think Tom Brady Sr. has captured the emotional goulash that I am in right now. Are we rooting for Tom Brady? Are we not rooting for Tom Brady? Are we booing Tom Brady? You cheer him, you boo him, he throws an interception. Are you saying it's okay? It's just a big emotional mess. The only thing you can hang your hat on is just the schedule. The analytics of the schedule take emotion out of it. And there's a lot of there's a take that is bubbling up that all of a sudden it's not the Chiefs that are going to go undefeated, but the Bucs will go undefeated. And earlier this morning, before our meeting, I was like, Nick, you should dig in to your facts about what you think is going to happen in the Bucs schedule, because I think that will give everybody even more venom and more interest in this game, because I think the Bucs will actually really need this game, not just for the emotion of Tom Brady, but just straight up need to win this game on their schedule before the season gets away from them.
All right, well, I'll do that in just a moment. You can leave the schedule up, but it's good to hear from old man Brady. Last time I remember hearing from him was when his son was being suspended by the league, and he called this same radio show and yelled at Goodell and yelled at the NFL. I mean, so I hadn't heard from Tommy Sr. in a while. No, hey, listen, we don't talk about people's family, but if people's family is calling sports talk radio, then I feel like they are opening themselves up to it. And best I can tell, that's a guarantee. That's a Mark Messier style. I guarantee the Bucs are going to come into Foxboro and kick some clam chowder down Patriots' throats. So that's exciting. Let's see how I think it's actually going to go. Contrary to what Tom Brady Sr. says. Now you can show the schedule. I think the Bucs are obviously going to make the playoffs. And I think they're going to go into the playoffs winners of 4 in a row and probably winners of 5 of their last 6. I think they're going to go in hot, feeling good about themselves, and unlike last year, with a home game to start because they're going to win their division. But those first 5 games, it is easy to see them losing 3 of them and not hard to see them losing 4 of them. The only, to me, pseudo-guaranteed victory they have in the first 5 weeks is home against Atlanta. Home against Dallas is hard. At the Rams, you are an underdog. At New England, to me, if Cam is looking even semi-decent, that's a pick'em. And home against Miami, a Miami team that I liked a lot last year, particularly its coaching and defense, that's a tough one. And then the middle part of your season is some good, some bad, and in the end, it gets very, very soft. But Brandon, I think it is more likely the Bucs go into the Patriots game 1-2 than they go into the Patriots game 3-0. I think at the Rams is a brutal spot, cross country against an excellent team. And I think the Cowboys are going to be extraordinary offensively. They're not going to be worse than they were last year defensively. So I think that's a losable spot. I'll just ask you, what do you think is more likely? The Bucs go into that game 3-0, or they go into that game 1-2, kind of feeling like, oh, we got to get it together?
3-0. Come on, Nick. You know I always say this, man. I'm with you when you right, buddy. But you're wrong here. Let's not get it twisted. You still have, you have everybody coming back. You have all of the coaches, which is most important. And then you have all the players that are coming back. And Tom Brady, have we ever seen Tom Brady have a Super Bowl hangover? Have we ever seen Tom Brady come back and he's just still celebrating? He's always on to the next thing. So you got to believe that Tom Brady probably in the next couple of days is going to be texting everybody, calling everybody, saying, all right, guys, now it's time to focus in on this season. So I don't see that happening. Now, we don't know, right? Like sometimes we get a little ahead of ourselves when it comes to sports. We start throwing out these predictions and looking at weeks ahead when we got to hone in on the thing that's right in front of us. But when you think about how this team is built, all they have to do is protect the ball, and that starts with Tom Brady. Tom Brady, we don't need you slinging it around 40, 45 times. What we need you to do is don't mess it up. You got a top 5 defense. You got a top 5 offensive line. You have a top 5 wide receiving core. You got Leonard Fournette, who's getting after it this offseason, so he's going to come back better and in a better place mentally. So just don't mess it up, Wiles. I just don't see them going into Foxboro 1-2 or 0-3. I just can't see that happening.
Okay. Can I dig in on the Cowboys with you, Brandon? Because we know the Cowboys' defense last year was terrible. But it feels like Dan Quinn can make his money right away. Right away. Dak will be back, and we know that the offense will be superpowered. But it feels like if Dan Quinn's like, you know what? If I could redeem my Super Bowl loss and beat Tom Brady in week 1, I could sort of set myself up here and really set the tone for the entire Cowboys season. I think the Cowboys, and it sounds silly and kind of basic, but I think the Cowboys will want that game more than the Bucs will. I think the Cowboys have all the onus to go in and win that game. It is not just like an easy game that the Bucs, who are going to roll out their same 22 guys and just roll over the Cowboys. I think the Cowboys have a real chance of winning that and probably will.
Yeah, I mean, you guys aren't far off with the Dallas Cowboys. We saw that offense last year before Dak went down. They were averaging like 497 yards a game. That was #1 in the league by far. And defensively, you just brought up Dan Quinn. Let's not forget who Dan Quinn was back with the Seattle Seahawks. He had back-to-back, I believe, #1 defenses. Then they went on to the Super Bowl. Then he got the head coaching job, and I don't know what happened to his defenses. But he said something last week, Nick. That's interesting, right? Because a lot of times we have these schemes and we just stick to these schemes. Where he went out there and said last week, he's like, I'm not bringing the same defense. I'm gonna tweak some things. That's what Pete Carroll did last year when they were getting exposed and they got their defense back on track. Everybody knows the Seattle Seahawks defense. You know if it's 3rd and 1 and 3rd and 2 and 3, what they're going to do. They're predictable. So for Dan Quinn to change his mindset and his mentality and his approach to his defense could be really good for the Cowboys.
You know what we could do? We could ask a former head coach some of these questions. Eric Mangini will join us to talk about this in a little bit. Let's talk some Lakers first. Should they do everything they can this weekend to avoid the play-in tournament? Someone here says, no big deal. Discuss that next. First things first. It's me, I see that. Tomorrow, pro football continues with the Spring League on Fox. Catch the Alphas as they take on the Conquerors. It's 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific on Fox and the Fox Sports app. Time now for Stores to Start Your Morning, sponsored by Ram Trucks, built to serve. And we're talking Lakers this morning. Their season winding down. Final push now for them to build a little momentum, put it all together. They got the Pacers on Saturday, they got the Pelicans on Sunday, and they still have a chance to avoid that play-in tournament. LeBron James, who has yet to return to the lineup, has his sights set far beyond that. Here he is from Wednesday's banner ceremony.
We would not send this banner to the rafters without you guys, and I know we're missing a lot of our Laker faithful, but this is absolutely for you guys. We said we would not reveal this banner until we had some of you guys in the seats, so this is you guys' moment. We had our ring night. We wanted you guys there, but we made sure we saved the banner for y'all, so we love you guys, and on the road to back-to-back starts in about a week, so let's get going.
I don't know if it'll be a total cakewalk for them to make that back-to-back journey. They need a Portland loss in their finale Sunday against Denver. They need 2 wins this weekend to move up. But, Nick, you've been saying all week, you're not worried about the play-in. You don't care at all. In fact, you would probably welcome it. You might be the only one. You still feel that way?
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, I prefer the play-in if the standings stay the same. If the Clippers stay the 3 seed, I think the Clippers this year, unlike last year, are the second-best team in the conference. And so I would prefer to not play them immediately when Schroeder's getting off COVID protocol, when AD's coming off injury, LeBron's playing off injury. But I've got a question for Wilds. Because we keep teasing around this conversation. How much trouble are the Lakers in? What about this? What about that? Here's my question. Let's, for the sake of argument, assume, and it's unlikely that this happens, but let's say the Clippers lose tonight to the Rockets. It's very unlikely, but say that happens. It could happen, right?
What if?
If that happens and the Lakers end up beating the Pacers, then the Nuggets will be in a very interesting position on Sunday. And the position is this. Oh, if we beat Portland, we go to the 3 seed, and as a reward, we play the Lakers. Because Portland will have lost and the Lakers will move up. Or if we punt on the game, rest Jokic, he's already won the MVP, forget it. Let Portland win, we then avoid the Lakers. What do you think the Nuggets do in that scenario? You think they go for the 3 seed? It's important. Knock the Clippers down.
They are allergic to playing the Lakers. We do not want to. No one wants to play the Lakers.
Who isn't?
You were right.
Nobody.
No one.
Oh,
so nobody wants to play the Lakers. Then why should the Lakers be afraid of playing someone like Memphis or San Antonio or Golden State? If nobody wants to play the Lakers, then why should the Lakers be worried about the play-in? That's my question.
Because there's a chance. Because there's an unnecessary risk. And it's why LeBron wanted poor Evan in the NBA corner office. If he's got a corner office, he might have a cube. Wanted Evan to put his stuff in a cardboard box and head on out. Because it's an unnecessary risk. With LeBron coming back, like you said, with AD coming back, the guys have only played 25 games together. So while I don't doubt their chemistry, it does seem like they've got great chemistry, I do doubt their overall health. And Brandon, I would be worried about an additional game or games, plural, that they would have to play. That's all. I'm not super confident that LeBron is 100%, Nick. He said he was going to come back against Julius Randle. Nope. Woj said, I'll give it another day. Okay. How about the banner raising ceremony against the Rockets? That's perfect. Nope. Showed up in street clothes. Good outfit, but I'd prefer to see him in a uniform. That's all. I'm just saying it's an unnecessary risk. Nobody wants to play the Lakers, but at the same time, I don't think the Lakers want to be in the play-in potentially Steph, who could go for 40 at any point, and Greg Popovich, who could be like, oh, I forgot. I'm not just like a middling 10 seed. I'm one of the greatest coaches of all time. Perhaps I can put together a game plan to knock LeBron out of the playoffs.
Look, the Golden State Warriors is salivating right now because they know they can beat the Lakers. Now, here's the challenge is the Grizzlies and the Spurs, I don't think they have a chance. But if we see Steph Curry and LeBron James in the play-in game, that can go either way. Steph Curry, Draymond Green with his little baby triple-double. You got Wiggy, who's finding his way finally. Wiggy's finding his way. So, like, man, this could be really interesting. But, Nick, you're right. The Grizzlies, the Spurs have no chance. But why would you want these extra minutes on your boys, Nick? Like, you're talking about LeBron James having a nagging ankle. You got AD who's having a nagging this, a nagging that. I mean, he has a nagging body. Like, come on, man. You don't want the extra minutes and this extra load on these guys when they absolutely need rest and they need to get healthy. It makes no sense to me.
So here's why I would. Because you then get fewer minutes in round one. So you play an extra game at the end of the year, and then round one's 5 games instead of 6 or 7. And, oh, wait, the minutes end up being less. That's why. I would rather have one extra game against Golden State, a team the Lakers beat by 30-something and 20-something the first 2 times they played them, and then they also lost once to them after blowing a 14-point lead, lost by 2, I think. I'd rather one extra game against them, and then absolutely trouncing the Jazz or the Suns in round 1, then having what I think would be a very trouncing.
Oh, my goodness.
Absolutely. Okay. I mean, listen. It was 7 months ago, but I've been here before. I've been here
what
about how
AD are you going to get? You need AD. Let's go back to the bubble. You guys were successful, won it because AD went to a whole nother level. What AD are we going to get? That's the question.
Well, the AD we saw a week ago. The AD we saw a week ago that scored 40 points, had the game-saving block. That AD, like that AD, he's not. He still plays.
He's still 23. Let me ask you a question.
Let
me ask you a question.
Go.
If they get bounced out, are you going to be on the banana boat with your boy LeBron? Are you going to be on the banana boat?
What?
If they get bounced out early.
If the Lakers fail to qualify for the playoffs, Brandon, I will wear a Nets jersey on the show every day of the playoffs. But it's not going to happen.
Have a great weekend, everybody.